Hi everyone. So today let us discuss topic, not a topic but a different themes are related. But the overall theme is that when agents have taken over the task, so how do you design API? So before that, yesterday we were discussing the search versus mapping, where agent calls the search API and maps the product. So based on that, how do we design the API? Because the current API design, if we break that into technical terms. So it is mainly four actions that we have: create, update, create, read, update, and delete. Again, this varies by different protocol. This is for the REST API protocol, but which is stateless. But for the gRPC and other protocols, based on the um, requirement, this changes. And also, this is not entirely true, but again, it depends on the protocol you are defining. But we'll take example of this acronym CRUD. So in this API, whatever actions this user takes, whatever user is inputting, there are two kinds of it. The step by step. Step by step means that, for example, user is filling a form. So you are getting some input from the user, and where you use the post request. User is taking some action on the UI, whatever data that is being sent to the server, you are storing somewhere. This is a step-by-step process where you use the CRUD application or data or how you design this create, update, read. This protocols or this design is directly matching or being implemented. What user is when you're taking user input is continuous. The feedback or the response has to be continuous, like in gaming industry or in a fancy industry, or a document that is edited live. So in that scenario, technically it is also a CRUD, but the outer layer is not actually defined as not actually CRUD. But if you take filter and go to um, means you keep breaking down the layer by layer, you get to reach that CRUD layer. So what we do in this actions or whatever the user is doing, we are mainly manipulating the data, or what we call defining how resource will be defined, will be exchanged or transferred. Let's say some details of user is, let's say I'm giving some response, get, and putting some query of search result, where my query is browsers, and 10 means pagination that have results query search results browser browsers, and I'm getting some 10 results. So if my in my DB I have this search results for related browsers, and I so the user set the other search results. Okay, moving on to the next thing. The main idea that we wanted to talk about is when you design this API for human, because in the current implementation we have humans using these APIs to manage the resources how data will be exchanged. So in each of the API that we design for different actions, you can get data. You can write that also. Hmm. Or update. So you are using for post is for creating a new resource and get is fetching the resource that you already have. So in these API designs for the humans in the existing, so we had a fixed parameters or fixed query or fixed method of designing this API. But when we give these APIs to the agent, so this does not work correctly for them. So there are two methods how we can go about it. So first it differs. First let's talk about how agent behaves. So currently how we control the agent whenever you have multiple um, workflows or agent control created based on a model. So many of the times the only layer of control that you have control your agent is the prompt. How well and accurate you define the prompt, how you control the agent. But the API, sorry, the API gives us a fixed method. API method is a fixed method. Fixed in the sense that we want the actions to be performed in a whatever resource we provide. We want the actions to be performed same level whatever we have defined in our API. Let's say I'm asking users to input to their name and I am getting a post request that this is the user. Now agent should take that API, post it, save that or in the DB or in the give that to the server. Now in the different step-by-step method where I'm asking the name to fill the form, then submit a payment, then I'm giving success message. So this becomes a let's see what multiple flow step-by-step interaction. So what can happen? It does happen in the scenarios. We are not thinking about the when actors change. When there was a human interacting with this step-by-step method, when there is an agent interacting with those same APIs, so agent can forget when you are not giving the context. It can forget because it does not have a fixed thing. It's a probabilistic machine, so it can forget. It can lose the context. It can leave the interaction or the flow in the middle. How do you control these behaviors? Is this through the API method, or how do you control agent behavior? So we have multiple solutions that have come up, but earlier, like model providers like OpenAI or Cloud, they began with this model giving you the direct interaction without relying much on how do you control this model, how do you manage your task. So when you and this is very challenging when you go into the production because in the production, especially for the enterprise, they do not want the uh, they want to the solution that is fixed and accurate, especially for industries like if you think about them in the financial area, where even a small hallucination or a small error rate like 2% error rate or a 5% or error rate is very bad for the user experience, or it directly impacts the user interaction, and it's not actually very good depending on the industry because you cannot have the, because it is a precise industry where the information and whatever the agent input we are getting, that has to be correct. It has to work 100%. And where the existing API is also, it works perfectly because you are going to use the fixed standard and you have defined the fixed inputs, very fixed parameters. So it works perfectly. But in when you are giving, you're designing your system or workflow with the agent, so that begins to crumble or you are not going to get the output. So how do you manage the, how do you control the agent? One way that we already have is the prompt. But again, prompt becomes complex as we include and go deeper or even more use cases. So in that case, there are multiple this method you can drag or semantic TB you can create or you can go vector. These are different solutions based on the use case type. You can choose to. But here we are discussing the API. If we are to design the API or change the API when our control is not through humans but through the agent. So again, one of the solutions that we have currently to manage this agent behavior LangChain. There are multiple means providers or you can say third party in the overall ecosystem who provides how do you control your agent when it is behaving or when you have define it in a particular workflow or task. Manage this. One way they have given is, let's say talk about the LangChain. So LangChain is something called LangGraph where it manages the different states of the agent. There are nodes where which provides the context at which layer currently the agent is working on. Let's say in the multiple calls or the capabilities that agent has. So LangGraph is just a state manager. Manages the state your agent is in. When you have defined or you have asked your agent to work in a multiple step type process. But another question is that why do companies, or let's say the model providers, the model LLM providers, although they have started offering these, or they have started offering this like you can have this cloud code to manage exactly. OpenAI has launched something called Codex, and from Gemini the Vortex. So these are the solutions from the LLM providers. But other than that, there are LangChain, CRUD, AI, and multiple other services where you can use this. But if you wanted to control the behavior of the agent, we have to think about some of the fixed method because the prompt optimization in that method gets very messy, very confusing for the model, the back end model, and because it is a probabilistic model, not a fixed set of actions, and how it internally works is not easily controlled by the prompt because prompt is mainly a human language text. So that is very problematic when you want a for that agent to perform. So that's all I think, and I'm reading a paper regarding that where they that design where we provide different API schema for the agent, like we provide the context ID, we provide the description, we provide the error scenario. So different set of, I mean, API schema or the process how we design for the agent and how we define earlier defined for the users when humans were developing this. So humans can read through the documentation and everything. Agents needs whole description everything, their description and context, they need everything to maintain the state in which they are performing the action. Otherwise, they will lose the state and they may hallucinate or give the false information. So, okay, that's all. Once so read that paper and we will have another discussion. Yeah, thank you.